Oh, hi.
Hey,
We're jumping straight
nice.
into it, isn't it?
This.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
I feel like we try and catch up frequently,
yeah,
which I think is important in this season,
absolutely.
especially what we do. So we're gonna jump straight into it. There's no like icebreaker.
No, we need the icebreaker because it's cold as
It's cold.
all.
It's cold in New York. It's cold in New York.
Yeah.
The first question I actually had for you, because I want to know this, is something I don't know, is why did you create The Lives of Men?
That's a great question. There's two answers to that.
Yeah.
The first answer is a more practical one. It was, just at a point in my life, I wanted to create an outlet for men who grew up like me, oldest of, 7 kids.
7?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 7 kids total between my mom and my dad. My dad and my mom divorced early on. And so, immigrant family. And so growing up without a father figure consistently, I had to learn how to be a man in large part by just observing the men in my life. The women in my life taught me a lot about what it meant to be a man. So I just wanted to create an outlet. It started off as kind of a vlog or a blog of sorts. And then it just evolved. All of a sudden, Me Too happens. And then now I'm in the middle of a public discourse around what does it mean to be a man, right? What does it mean to be a good man? So it just became that.
It's so funny you say that. That was literally my next question.
Yeah.
So when you created that, knowing what you didn't see growing up and what you did see growing up, because, someone once told me everything you don't see teaches you something 100%. And everything you see teaches you something. What would you say the new school man should be, is?
Should be? I'm not even gonna get into that, right? Although I've built a body of work in the space, I don't consider myself an authority in any respect.
Yeah.
But I do think that there are some qualities that you can point to that I think a lot of men are embodying nowadays, right? Men who are, much more emotionally in tune, self-aware, that are balancing this kind of idea of what it means to be a strong man with tenderness and softness and vulnerability. So that to me is a much more complete man, right? Someone that's able to access all of that. So those are just some of the ways that I think people can start, or men can start thinking about how to be a more modern man, if you will.
I like the term modern man, because everyone evolves.
Yeah.
Over time, over centuries, we all evolve. And what you've created, the reason it resonated with me a little bit more is, one, I have a brother and there's a ton of men in my life. But the point you just made is, we don't have a plan or a playbook.
Yeah.
A lot of men don't have the playbook. And in the season where health is a big topic, who are they going to for that information? Who are they going to for that information as health becomes, black health is a big thing, black male health is a big thing, mental health around men is a big thing. And I think everyone wants a playbook. Everyone wants someone to guide them. And if you don't have the right guidance, we've all seen the path you can take. So tell me about that. Like, from your perspective, what could women or men, what can people do to help accept the new modern man?
Yeah. I love that you said women,
Yeah.
and I'm smiling from ear to ear for a reason, because, oftentimes, to the extent that we're in heterosexual relationships, right, a lot of what men do is for the approval of women, right? Whether it's...
Say that again.
A lot of what men do, whether it's the pursuit of career success, finances, even going in the gym and, a lot of men will probably say, yeah, I do it for my health, right? But it's for the impression and the acceptance of women, right? And so I think when we talk about women and men and masculinity, it's important to acknowledge that women are just as affected negatively as men are by some of these traditional norms. So if you ask me, what can women do, or what can, whether you're in a relationship or not, it could be your brother, your cousin, right? Is just be mindful of the ways that you've been indoctrinated into some of these things, right? So that you're not showing up and you're not policing your partner, right? And I think oftentimes what happens is, in a relationship, as an example, is, a partner's asking her partner to want to be more emotive, right? Or to talk to me more, right?
Yeah, I need you to feel more.
I need you to feel more.
Yeah.
But I have friends that when they do get that, it's just like, I don't know, it doesn't feel manly, right? They reject it. And so I think it's just an example of the ways that I think women police men just as much as we police each other.
I've never thought about it like that, because we have our own perception of upbringing, what we've seen, what we didn't see.
Yeah.
So then we come, I don't like using the word trauma, but we essentially come with our own trauma.
Yeah.
And then we have this expectation of men, I need you to be more manly, or I need you to speak up, and I need you to do this. And it's like, wait, that's coming from your own bias.
Absolutely.
What does he want, and what should he be, going towards, and what is this new modern day man? So I really like that whole concept. What would you say has been the biggest challenge in building what you've built?
Not having the models, as you mentioned, right? Not having healthy representations and expressions of what it means to be a man, especially as a man of color. So I think it's in large part having to navigate and create those on the fly. I don't like to say, I know a lot of men say this, I don't like to say that, when I had my daughters, when I went on this journey.
Say that again.
You had a mom, you had sisters, probably had women in your life.
Women in your lives.
Who hopefully were the inspiration, but yeah, it's just having to create those paths myself, and learning by making a lot of mistakes and trial and error, and all that has really shaped me. So I think that's part of the reason I wanted to create the platform, is to hopefully offer it to other men who might be experiencing different things as an outlet, as one of the ways that they can move forward.
Why did you name it what you named it?
Another great question. I named it that way because I wanted to, I didn't want it to lead with Jason, right? Like Jason Rosario. It was more of me wanting to tell the story of men, right? Through my own experience, right? But you just give men an opportunity and a platform and a voice to speak to each other, to the world. And so that was faceless in some ways, right? So it's the lives of men because of that. It
resonates, the lives of men, because when I think about it, I'm just like, there's so many different angles to men, right? So it's like, I'm also intrigued, and the thing that I loved that you did was like included women. Like, here is how women can help men, especially what I've seen in the last, I'll say 5 years, is the rise of like mental health and Black men, and how we can support Black men. Our community has a lot of work to do, naturally, because it's not something we talk about. But what I've loved and what I've seen is the increase of us talking about what does health and wellness look like for Black men. We know what the stats tell us. We know the amount of people that die because they don't take care of self. So what would you say is, what are the things you have found, rather, that has stopped Black men and men of color in general from pursuing a life where they take care of their health and wellness and they're not dying at 50, because we've seen a lot of that in the last decade? It's like, how do they stay healthy and how do they stay grounded?
I think there's a big misconception that men don't have the language to start to have a conversation around mental health. And that's a complete fallacy, because I'm a part of communities where that's happening. Men are talking about these things, they're just not talking about it in a very public way. You start to see some breakthroughs, for example, on social media. You'll have a video go viral of a teenager crying because he's going through some stuff. So we have the language, we just don't have the community. And I think that's what I'm hoping to create in some ways, right? Is to create the container for those conversations to germinate and to then flow out of that. And then be inclusive as part of that. So it's equal parts. It's continuing to develop the language, continuing to develop the self-awareness, and then creating the community and the opportunities for us to then engage with each other. I think that's. I
love that. I can't stress. I'm learning so much about you, but again, this is why we have these conversations. I feel like, as an executive that you are, and you wear multiple hats, and you have a business as well. It's, what do you do to stay grounded, and how do you take care of self?
This is going to sound super weird, but I cook with real food.
Okay, explain.
Like I go to the supermarket and whatever meal I'm going to make, I buy the actual ingredients.
So like you grind peppers and stuff?
I grind peppers, I peel the garlic, all of it.
Okay.
And the reason I say that first is because that's the ultimate presence, right? When you're in the middle of creating a meal, as an example, right? And you can use so many different examples, but you're cutting the vegetables, you're thinking about, you got to turn the hot water on, you got to lower the fire, right? Like these things bring you to this moment of being super present. And then of course, if you're cooking for someone else, if you're cooking for yourself, I think it's an ultimate act of love, if you will. So,
do you cook every day?
No, I don't cook every day. But that's one thing. I cook. I lean on my spiritual practice, meditation. And
how often do you meditate?
Every day.
Did you recently start meditation, or have you always meditated?
I want to say always, but I think I've been meditating for a really long time. And my spiritual practice has evolved over the years. But That's absolutely critical. And, I'm sure we'll get into this later, but even as a leader, right, even as an executive, when you're in these spaces and you're leading the work that we do, I think you have to have something that you lean on.
Yeah.
And so for me, much more in the last 5 years has been my spiritual practice.
So we're going to pivot straight into that,
Yeah.
because that was going to be my next question. Is we work in some of the most toughest space, especially in this season.
Yeah.
And I think it's always going to be a season for us. It doesn't matter what happens. As an executive, we have to find moments where we just stay grounded. And I know you cook, but that's in your house.
Yeah.
How do you stay grounded at work, as an example? For think about a black man's looking at you and they are thinking, I want to be Jason. I want to be able to show up in corporate America, show up in corporate spaces and still feel safe and seen without compromising my health. What would that look like?
I mean, I try to be unapologetically me. You know me, so you know that that's true. I just try to stay grounded in what the root of what it is that I'm doing is for, right? Like, I am in service to a community. I have a boss that I report to. I have responsibilities for sure, but who I'm in service to is what keeps me grounded. So this work around inclusion is not just about making sure that we're creating pathways to success and opportunity for marginalized people. Yeah, that's a big part of it. But another part of it is creating culture for everyone, right? And so how do you bring those two worlds together in a way that feels natural and safe? So it's staying rooted in that, right? Remembering the North Star, letting the task be the boss. Is one of the things that my mentor used to say.
I like that. Letting the task be the boss.
Let the task be the boss. What is the thing to be done? And let that be the boss.
I love how selfless that is.
Yeah.
Because it's not about, to your point, it's not about who we report into. Right. It's actually about impact.
It's service.
It's service.
Yeah.
Like, we are in the business of serving others.
Absolutely.
But also, as leaders, we have a lot of power and responsibility on our shoulders.
Yeah.
And I think we don't talk about how we balance it all.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a public conversation. It's something culturally, you just figure it out. In a Nigerian household, you just figure it out.
Yeah, I'll share something with you on that, because it does feel, and you and I have had this conversation before, but definitely more so with other people, it feels very lonely.
Ooh, say that again.
It's like, it's what they say, it's right, like the air is thin.
Yeah.
And this is with no ego, right? Like, no. But in the C-level, C-suite, you have certain responsibilities. You're in the spotlight for better or worse.
Good or bad.
Who do you talk to?
Rain or sun.
Right? Who do you talk to when you had a bad day? Who do you? And so to finish the answer to the original question, of course, all those things are true, but just remembering that at the end of the day, like and this is going to sound super spiritual, but it's about remembering that I am a spirit brought into a space to expand light. Right, and I know that sounds super esoteric. Your audience is probably gonna be like, "Who is this guy?" But
no, but it's not. It's about, that's the experience you have, and that's what you've leaned on to stay sane, because our sanity is tested almost every single day. We work incredibly long hours, and I remember when we met, I was like, I kind of was at, I had that moment where I finally felt seen. I had community, and to your point, the loneliness almost felt like it was going. And not just because you were black, and not just because you were a guy, but because we are in the same space, and not a lot of people are in our spaces, so they don't understand the fight. They don't understand the games we have to play, but also they don't understand the burden on our shoulders, and how we show up and smile every day. Like, it's all good, while still making impact, because we're of service to them. So meeting you, I think, was it was a breath of fresh air. And the work you do is obviously something I care about, because I do think that we don't have enough men in our industry. So if we think about inclusivity just in general in advertising and media and creative space, it's like the voice of black men are missing. In large part, granted the industry doesn't have a lot of us overall, but what would you say to a younger version of you who wants to be a C-suite executive, but they're like, oh, all those games, I don't want that. All that burden, I don't want that. Just give them the money. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think there's a responsibility with that. I would also say before that, like, think about what your goals are and whose they are. Are they really yours, or are they someone else's? Are they your family's goals? Are they society's goals, right? So to your point, like, not everyone wants to be or should be on a path to the C-suite, right?
That's true.
And that's okay. But just be mindful of that, number one. Number two, make more deposits than you do withdrawals along the way. Meaning, think about your relationships. Think about who you're coming across. Think about what you're leaving behind before you think about what you're taking from anyone.
Oh, I love that.
And then another thing is, don't ever subscribe to anyone's notion of what your career should be. Don't ever subscribe to anyone else's story about how you should manage your career.
Tell your own story.
Yeah, tell your own story. Because you will come across many times, I think we still do today, of instances where you express your desire to do more. You almost have to contort yourself to a smaller version of yourself to fit into some of these spaces. So you got to be very mindful of that and be willing to say, you know what, I'm able to do that and I'm willing to do that for a certain amount of time because there's a bigger cause here. But think about that as, if you're a young man listening, think about that as you're navigating your career.
I love that, because what it sounds like is you have to sacrifice in the short term to get what you want in the long term. And again, this goes back to what no one tells you about, because I know you, so that's a little bit different. But before I met you and before I met anyone else in the C-suite, I just assumed everyone had it figured out.
That's the most common misconception.
I thought everyone had it figured out and something was wrong with me. But again, there's not enough of us to have these uncomfortable conversations of, it's okay to make the sacrifices now, but what is your vision moving forward? So I loved how you said, make more deposits than withdrawals. Like that's going to stick with me forever. Make more and I'll add to that, make deposits at all levels.
At all levels,
because
absolutely.
I think that's often forgotten. People often try and manage up, and it's like, wait, you do know the senior manager or the manager is probably going to be a director soon, and if they're really good, they're going to probably be a C-suite. You literally have to deposit into them and not just be a taker. Otherwise, it's pointless.
And there's always an opportunity to learn. I'm always learning from my mentees. I mentor a few people, and I always learn more from them than they do me.
1,000%. As I think about just the landscape we're in right now, I think, what you're doing, what you're building with the lives of men is, I can't even stress how important it is with how vulnerable seeing men like you are, C-suite men, black men, we don't see that. So when I think about, how we can support black men in the workplace or just in general, so that's companies, that's individuals, that's organizations. How do we support black men? Especially as my biggest thing is finding balance, making sure that we are prioritizing our health and our wellness. What would that look like?
I would say, if I'm talking to the world now, right? I would say be mindful and gracious about the amount of sensory considerations that men are experiencing in each interaction.
Interesting.
I know that sounds super complicated. I'll break it down. I'm 6'4".
Okay.
I'm a bald head man, right? I walk into a space, you notice, right? There's a presence here. You can't ignore me, right? And so for as long as I can remember, I've been very aware of that and very aware of how I use my voice, how I use my body, how I position my body so that it's not intimidating.
That's so interesting.
Right? And so, and in many respects, that's...
Were you taught that? Or you
No, I just picked it up. You learn that, right? You learn that by observing people.
I'm not a black man, so I'm learning so much right now.
You learn and you pick that up, and then you realize that in some spaces, that's the difference between survival or not, right? But in corporate spaces, it's hey, can I say something to this person that's sitting in front of me in a way that's not going to be misinterpreted? And so all of those things, those micro interactions that are happening in our own minds, are things that we're processing before we sit down to have a meeting with someone. And so, I'm sure other people experience a level of that, but for us, it just doesn't seem like to be much of a margin for error.
The black men, or just in general?
I think men generally, and then men of color particularly, and then black men especially.
Oh wow!
There is a very thin line and small margin for you to say the wrong thing to the wrong person at work, and
how do you circumvent that?
Self-awareness. I mean, it goes back to what we said earlier, right? You have to be self-aware of yourself, both on a very emotional level, spiritual level, physical level, right? Like understand proximity, understand that, I come from a culture that's very lovey-dovey. It's hugs and kisses.
Yeah.
I don't do that at work.
No.
Right?
No.
And so again, that self-awareness is really important. So, unfortunately, those are things that we're thinking about that hopefully, maybe other people aren't, but it's an important consideration as we're moving in these spaces.
I'm speechless because I'm having to rethink a lot of things, like not just perception of Black men or things I thought I knew. It's actually how we support them in the world. I think like I said, I have a younger brother, and I'm just like, there were so many missed opportunities where we could have supported him a little bit more, but we were imparting what we thought a man should be on him. So the concept of like the modern man or the lives of men, I love the mission and the vision, and I want you to keep doing it. I think we need more spaces. I would love to find ways to collaborate. I'll obviously share this and have people subscribe. They'll find you, Jason Rosario. But before you go, because I have to, there's always a before you go moment.
It's got to be a spicy moment.
There's a little spicy moment. One of the reasons I've started doing this, I think I mentioned this over the phone, is losing so many people in the last few years has made me realize that we don't have enough moments where we just chat with our friends. We don't. We do a better job of it. I think I try and see you at least once a year. But we don't do enough where we sit down and we have moments where we're still. And I want to encourage everyone to start finding more moments of stillness. So, question for you, what does more moments of stillness look like, Jason?
Living a simpler life.
Explain. That's too basic for me.
Living with less material things, with less scheduling things, with less stuff, right? I think it's just making room for what matters. So I listen to Scott Galloway a lot. Scott Galloway is an NYU professor, super popular marketer. And he talks about bucketing his life into 3 categories. He says there are things that he thinks he should do, things that he has to do, and things that he wants to do. He said he eliminated anything that is in the should bucket. And he only focuses on the things that he has to do and wants to do. And then he prioritizes that. So I think that's it, is if you think about connection and community and relationships with your friends as things that you have to do or want to do, prioritize it that way.
Yeah, I like that. Bucketing things and prioritizing things. I think that's taking care of self. That's what that sounds like. It's like we found ways to take care of ourselves as execs, as people navigating a very complex world. And as again, I want to see my friends grow old. I really do. But I also want us to be intentional about creating community. So again, thank you for creating the lives of men.
Thank you.
We need to have we'll probably have a whole part 2 about breaking down the community, who's in it, and how people can access you in the lives of men. But I just wanted to say thank you, because I know you're busy. That's the other thing, busy people don't find time. So thank you for finding the time to chat to me. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, Toby. It was an honor and a pleasure to have this conversation.
It's also freeing.
It's just like the conversations we have on the phone, but with just lights, camera, action.
Exactly that. And that's the part that I think is special, is this isn't like a curated conversation. This is a conversation where it's like, hey, Jason, so da-da-da-da. And we'll just be on the phone talking about the things we talk about. But I do think there's a level of intentionality around showcasing that to people who don't have access to us, who don't have access to a Black man, and to your point, the modern Black man, or what that framing should look like. So if you need me, I'm always a phone call, a text, all times, all days, all holidays, all holidays away. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And with that, I want us to keep living life to a T. That's my motto for this year.
Let's live life to a T.
Live life to a T. Thank you.
Thank you. That was so good.
I forgot you were there,
What, the high